Is there another basic premise that you're proposing?
Well,
Yeah.
that's
I was going to bring up the fact, Matt Armstrong, bring up the fact that fiscal policy and monetary policy should be independent of each other. Just due to the fact that monetary policy should be talking about or fixing market values like the interest rate, and fiscal policy, which has more of a gauge on unemployment and stuff, like indicators like that, should focus on that. So Y star, the long and natural non-accelerating inflation-free employment rate that's vertical is mostly impacted by fiscal policy from the government. So that should be independent from the central bank.
So you're saying fiscal goes to unemployment, monetary goes to inflation?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that unemployment shouldn't be the central bank's area of jurisdiction, because there are a lot of government policies and government fiscal policy that affect the unemployment rate, such as minimum wage, labor laws, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, so, thank you. So you, Team Worthington, you can ask them whatever you want. This is a 5-minute session. You guys have questions for them?
We have two.
Okay.
We'll proceed. So firstly, we'd like to ask, would you not agree that we both agree we need good information? The government, as well as the central bank, needs good information to make good decisions. But wouldn't you agree that that is a separate question? The quality of information that the government can gather, yes, crucial, but a separate question entirely. The theoretical framework of what we should target is what's at stake here. And secondly, wouldn't you agree that the central bank is perhaps even more suited than the government to affect or to influence such a hot button issue as unemployment, seeing as how it is much less affected by political pressures, by populism, and is not elected, it is not subject to changes in popular opinion as quickly or as rapidly as necessarily the government, so can make more educated, more long-term beneficial decisions. Would you not agree with these words?
Okay. Good questions.
I think that to deal with that, the central bank, yes, can act quicker than the government can. However, there are so many policies.
Sorry, would you not say act more quickly? Would you say better suited to in its nature?
Yes, well,
It's probably a good idea to stand up when you talk.
so
Let's deal with the first one. They're saying your argument about unemployment being kind of you can't accurately determine unemployment and how it affects the labor market and so on. But that's just a measurement problem. If you could fix the measurement problem, it would be a good idea to use unemployment as a target. So what I think they're saying is, let's assume that we can accurately target unemployment. Is it a good idea to use it? Assuming we can actually measure it properly, and it's actually a good measure of what's going on in the labor market, wouldn't it be a good idea to use it as a target?
so it's perfectly, like measuring it perfectly, no error in measurement at all.
Right. Assuming it works well, and we can measure it well, and it's a good indicator of the health of the labor market. Why not use it?
The only issue that arises from that is that when you act to affect unemployment rates, it can take a while. 2 to 4 quarters?
Approximately, don't quote me.
Yeah, it's like roughly 2 to 4 quarters for your policies to take effect. So you can try and judge and figure out what your unemployment target should be, but then when you get there, it won't be that. And it's completely out
it's 8 quarters for inflation.
Yeah, 2 to 3 quarters actually
It's pretty quick for an effective replacement.
So it's actually quicker for unemployment than for inflation.
But still remember the ones,
Yeah.
2008 recession.
Yeah, but we're assuming there's perfect data though.
What was your second question? I forget.
Oh, okay. The second question was basically, yeah, okay. So like, if we have good information, you know, should the government really deal with this, or would the central bank be more equipped? Because the government does have political pressures. Like they implement policies because, yeah, they have political pressures who want to be voted in again, you know, things like that. So how would they be more objective than the central bank?
Yeah. Okay. I understand what you're saying, like the political pressures are dissuading to use that, but the Swedish National Bank, the head, I forgot her name, she was giving a speech on this. She said central banks don't have benefit, quote unquote, of hindsight in advance. So I thought that was pretty telling in the sense that really is anyone suited to do it better than the other if it's just a guess. So that's when we bring in the fact that unemployment numbers are so tough to do. Like, if you can't fully measure them, and I know we're saying that they're perfectly measured in a sense, it's bringing in an extra variable that you don't fully understand and trying to target. So I would say yes. I understand that the political pressures are tough, but maybe adding another facet to the central bank is also a negative.
Okay, thank you. Well, your chairman can put a couple questions to the information.
Yeah, we have a couple. Well, so if we could revert back to it being imperfect as it actually is. Like the U.S. bank just stopped it, and on their release was basically, or it's believed to be that they didn't want to have to raise interest rates again. So they said once we hit 6.5%, we're going to raise interest rates because that 2 years ago was like the promised land of the economy. That was, we're going to be recovered when we get back to 6.5. So they're at 6.7 now, and they're like, well, this is still not a good indicator. So the economy still isn't where they want to be. So if it's 0.2 off, and they're still saying this isn't where we want to be, why would we stick to targeting unemployment? That's way too much.
Exactly. As we've understood it, we would like to answer the following way. Yes, we understand that because the U.S. does it, there is significant economic power and it's perhaps indicative. But you mentioned they stopped targeting unemployment. Well, that doesn't mean it wasn't effective while they did use it. It can be a very, very important tool for countercyclical monetary policy. If you, during times of recession, you target a certain unemployment rate to help guarantee the stability, as we've argued is an aspect of currency stability. Therefore, we think if they have ended this as a temporary measure, then this is just another indicator that they feel it has done its purpose, served its purpose, and then we go back to inflation targeting, which in the uncertain time they're headed into should perhaps definitely be their course of action. Now, the trials and tribulations of the United States are one thing. On the other hand, them not fully understanding the depth of the issues in their economy is not news to anyone but them. So the fact that they're having troubles in their economy that cannot be solved exclusively by targeting inflation through the central bank is not really an argument that inflation targeting is not a helpful policy. It just means that in this case, as we've said, they have not considered it alongside enough additional factors. to make the policy useful. In the same way that in a time of stagflation, as we saw in the 1970s, expansionary monetary policy in general would not be advisable because of the other issues affecting the economy.
Okay,
So,
I understand. I have to watch the time. How about a 1-minute closing statement?
Okay, 1 minute.
1 minute. Give us your best shot. Summarize it.
Okay.
Why have 2 targets?
Okay, so, well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for listening. It's been a heated debate, but I'd like to emphasize it once again. So, first of all, the transmission mechanism, as we stated earlier, the chain reaction, starting with overnight rate or bank rate, shows that monetary policy affects both inflation and unemployment, regardless of targeting a single variable. Therefore, by targeting one, the other is affected, so why not target both? Therefore, since the actions of the central bank greatly affect both of these economic variables, it should be responsible for targeting healthy levels for both. Secondly, we've proven that unemployment is an extremely important factor. Not only does it affect the general population, but it also affects the government. Through the neo-Chartist view, fancy word, the unemployment is even more important because the government's ability to collect tax revenue from its people is directly linked to unemployment. And thirdly, now that we've established an unemployment is vital to target, we must determine the best institution to do so. Seeing as in many cases the central bank collects vital economic data, it can be seen that the central bank has the tools to be best suited for this job. Now, I'd just like to say, the central bank should target both inflation and unemployment. Lastly, I want to leave you with 2 quotes. First is from Jimmy Carter, and he said, "Any system of economics is bankrupt if it sees value or virtue in unemployment." And lastly, Margaret Thatcher said, "Damn, we conservatives hate unemployment." Thank you.
All right, thank you. And closing statement by negative side? Closing statement. 2 sentences.
Yeah, I'd say that
Why target both?
we'd say that, well, we don't want to.
We don't want to.
We want to target just inflation.
Yeah.
Because,
Ultimately, the U.S. Federal Reserve made the right decision in not targeting unemployment.
So if the Americans do it, it's right.
Well, I'm saying that there's.
I guess that's why we're in Afghanistan.
But there's only one central bank left in the world that still explicitly targets unemployment.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple questions for you, because it's interesting. Number one, if you're aiming at 2 targets, it's going to be more difficult than aiming at 1. Yes or no? If I have a bow and arrow, I want to aim at 1 bullseye, not 2.
but if you have a pump gun and your targets are lined up behind each other, it becomes significantly easier.
Okay, good answer. So then, my second question is, if you accept the Phillips curve trade-off, or given the relationship between inflation and unemployment, if you're targeting inflation, you are coincidentally, contemporaneously, targeting unemployment. So why not just target one and you automatically get the other? As you already said, one's behind each other. So if you hit one, you hit them both. Why aim for both? It could just confuse you. It's like you're cross-eyed. What's the advantage of trying to aim for both? If you increase inflation, you're going to automatically decrease unemployment if you accept the Phillips curve trade-off. So why go for both?
Yes, well, we're arguing that since there is this trade-off, and since you're going to affect both either way, there is a need, which is saying there is more value in targeting both than there is in just passively affecting the other by extension. So
I don't get that. I don't understand that argument. It sounds eloquent, but I don't understand.
well, it's from this the neo-Chartist view we proposed. We're arguing
It's sort of like saying this: I want to lose weight because I want to be healthy. So I target my weight, and then I automatically become healthy. If I target inflation, I automatically improve the labor market. So I don't understand why I would
arguing is it's not quite.
Why
that
do I
simple.
have to target both?
We're arguing it's not quite that simple, that.
Okay, so why target both?
Well,
What's the advantage of targeting both?
We're arguing that simply targeting inflation offers too much of a closed-minded approach. We're arguing that
Why?
it's going to take a little longer. Since as we work off the assumption through the neo-chartalist view that inflation, by affecting stability, directly affects currency stability. We're working with that theoretical framework. Now, if we accept that, we also argue that inflation has more effects on more of the
Do we have a
economy.
problem when we target inflation with monetary stability? This monetary stability seems to be a red herring. I don't understand. what it has to do
Not
with it.
monetary.
Well, trust in the chartalist view. It looks like you've sort of imported the chartalist view into this argument because we've talked about it in class, but I don't see the link.
It is.
What's that got to
It's
do with
necessary.
targeting inflation? What does chartalist view have to do with targeting inflation?
It links it to currency stability. It's the link between
Okay, so
inflation and
let's-
currency stability.
Is there a problem with currency stability?